Thank you very much, Presiding Officer. And let me just address a couple of points that have come from the Tory benches before coming to the meat of what I want to say. On broadband, Scotland is the part of the UK which has seen the biggest, by far, uplift in delivery of superfast broadband. The UK government's USO provides a third of the speed that the Scottish Government is working towards. And if I may say so, Dean Lockhart showed exceptional bravery in his contribution to the debate. He suggested we lost 500 million. Well, we'll have that debate another time. But I've just checked, and so far the HS2 project controlled by the UK Government is £30 billion over budget. That is 5 times bigger than 500 million per capita in Scotland. If it was in Scotland, 2.5 billion. But anyway, to the substance of the issue before us today, Presiding Officer, I think we can all agree that what the pandemic has brought us is very real fear in many of our population about the situation in which they find themselves through no fault of their own and no fault of any government. It's important that we give them hope for the future. And I think the work that the Scottish Government has been doing is precisely where we can look to for that hope. The big projects of the last 50 or 60 years have been based on hope, have been set out by ambition of leaders. And I think that's what we see before us today. John F. Kennedy taking his nation to the moon would be an example. But many of the things that we can be using today, of course, are not particularly new. I started using teleconferencing with Australia, a joint project, nearly 30 years ago. I also think it's important. Willie Coffey talked about the importance of software. Software is a vital thing, but it is also something that isn't as transient as we often think it is. I know for a fact the piece of software that I wrote 45 years ago is in use today and is maintained by my successors. I very much welcomed the fact that in her opening remarks, the Cabinet Secretary made reference to hydrogen, because in the northeast of Scotland in particular, with the hydrogen buses in Aberdeen, we've already taken some early steps to show the viability of hydrogen as a fuel for heavy transport of one sort or another, heavy goods vehicles, buses, and so on and so forth. The Bus Support Operators Grant doesn't specifically focus on helping hydrogen as a way of powering buses, and I think we might care to revisit that. But in the northeast, we have huge amounts of renewable energy, a lot of it onshore wind turbines, and there's space for some more. Offshore wind turbines, the High Wind project being one example, and of course, the Murray East project, where the cables are running across my constituency and into my colleague Gillian Martin's constituency, is the raw material for producing hydrogen that we can use. Just to make a wee comment about the renewable transport fuels obligation, there isn't access for hydrogen vehicles to that particular subsidy. So I think again we might look at that in addition. Now, is there an economic opportunity that particularly comes from hydrogen? Well, yes, there is, because it's in an early stage of development. We have the opportunity, the engineering skills in the northeast, from working offshore to produce fuel from the North Sea, initially oil and gas, now wind turbines. That is part of it. And in my constituency, we have the Acorn project at St Fergus, taking gas from the North Sea, using the energy in a zero carbon footprint way to produce hydrogen, which can then be fed into the gas grid. And 20% of what we put in the gas grid can be hydrogen with the existing equipment that is using that hydrogen at the other end. So there's more we can do. I hope that we do that. I hope that the significant amount of money that's being put into retraining people is able to pick up the opportunity to train some more people for the skills that we need in exploiting hydrogen. Just as we've had success in the past from oil and gas We can build our future on hydrogen. It's a huge opportunity for Scotland, but in particular for the area that I represent. Presiding Officer.